In the summer of 2020, a rapper from Staten Island dropped a song that blew up and ruled the internet overnight. And within weeks, the song, Whoopty, went so viral that now it has more than 500 million views on YouTube. Music blogs were calling him the next big thing out of New York. Complex put him on their radar, calling him one of 2020's biggest surprise hits. But it wasn't just the blogs. Cardi B made a video singing and dancing to his music. Everyone wanted a piece of him, including one of the biggest record labels on the planet. And by early 2021, he had a top 10 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. His name was CJ, and for a brief moment, it seemed like the music industry was ready to hand him the crown. But behind a sharp rise to fame were hefty checks and controversies that marked him for failure.
Did this sample really cost you $80,000 to clear?
It was more at first.
CJ started himself on a path to irrelevance by trying to claim the word Whoopty for himself, a move that kicked up drama with an actual street gang, ruined his credibility as a gangster rapper, and set the streets that he claimed to be part of against him.
Pretty much Whoopty, like, it's worldwide now. I got babies, saying Whoopty. I got, middle-aged people, older people. Pretty much it's just like a roll call, whenever I see my guys in the street, and, that's how we greet each other. It's like a New York when people say, "Yeah."
In less than 18 months, CJ went from being talked about as the new king of New York with a huge record label deal, a top 10 Billboard artist, and co-signs from some of the biggest names in hip-hop, to being publicly ridiculed by the very streets he claimed to represent. But to understand how far CJ has fallen, we need to understand just how high he actually was, because CJ's rise to the top was far from normal. It felt like a glitch. It was something no one in the industry had ever seen before. CJ blew up in the summer of 2020 at a time when the entire world was locked indoors. Everything was shut down. Touring, concerts, clubs, every single way an artist would have traditionally built a fan base was a no-go. CJ said he was bringing a new type of energy to the New York drill rap scene. He said this during an interview with Genius.
This situation, everybody was like, in quarantine. So it was pretty much like we was just missing that energy, that New York swag. So I was just like, I gotta bring something to the table, man. It's my time.
But the truth was that in 2020, the only stage left for anyone was digital. Social media platforms that could be accessed by literally anyone on the planet. And that meant that at the time, some platforms had more power than any label, radio station, or any A&R executive on the planet. One of those platforms was TikTok. CJ, real name Christopher Daniel Soriano Jr., self-released his track called Whoopty in July 2020 on several platforms including TikTok. By all standards, it was a pretty normal drill rap track. But the song had one thing going for it that almost nothing else on TikTok had: a perfect 15-second loop. And whether CJ knew it or not, the intro to a song was the perfect track for short-form content. And TikTok did what TikTok does. The Whoopty challenge exploded. Thousands of creators used the sound. In every dance video, every transition clip, every thirst trap on the app was using CJ's beat. And every single one of those videos was funneling listeners to Spotify to hear the full track. By December 2020, Whoopty was pulling over 13 million streams a day on Spotify alone. And as of 2026, that track alone had racked up over 852 million Spotify streams. The algorithm picked it up and slotted it into Spotify's Rap Caviar and Today's Top Hits, two of the most powerful playlists on the platform. That action created a feedback loop. TikTok pushed users to Spotify, Spotify's algorithm pushed the song to even more users, and those users went back to TikTok to make more videos. And by February 2021, Whoopty had climbed to number 10 on the US Billboard Hot 100. It rose to number 3 on the UK single chart and peaked at number 10 on the Billboard Global 200. For a fresh artist with no prior mixtape, no regional fan base, and no live show history, those numbers are almost unheard of. And that right there was the first red flag, because all of the heat CJ was getting was attached to just one song. CJ's fall to the bottom was rapid. Overnight, he went from millions of streams daily to meager thousands. And it didn't happen because he ran out of talent. It happened because the entire foundation his career was built on was never real to begin with. Let's talk about that Whoopty beat, because that's where CJ's problem stemmed from. Whoopty's beat was one of the major reasons why the track grew so viral. It was different from anything anyone in drill rap had come up with at the time. But while it was uniquely fresh and new to the drill rap scene, it wasn't original. The intro that the core of the song was based on was sampled from Santa Marie, a 2015 Bollywood hit composed by Mithun and sung by Arjit Singh.
We didn't realize there was a sample on it. So like in the beginning of the song, there's like a, I don't know if it's a lady or a guy, they singing in the beginning, and it's actually a song from a movie, an Indian movie.
The beat was originally produced by a Cypriot producer named Bakoyo, who uploaded it to YouTube. And as the SoundCloud rapper that he was at the time, CJ found the beat on YouTube, downloaded it, loved it, and rapped over it.
I found a beat on YouTube, you know, it was kind of a mistake thing because I didn't know, you know, as far as the business side. But yeah, it's like just like on some quick YouTube, downloaded it real quick, you know, vibed out and kind of just, you know, went in the booth and just was going with the flow. You know what I'm saying? I didn't write in the studio. I was just like kind of like freestyling the whole thing and then just put everything and mashed it up together.
With his quick rise to the spotlight, CJ sold himself as that kid from Staten Island who grinded from the bottom and finally made it to the top of the single track.
See what was gonna happen with the record, you know, how far it was gonna go. Cause like I said, it all starts off small, you know, it starts off, you know.
But when Whoopty was almost taken off the airwaves for sampling Santa Maria, something happened that changed the narrative CJ was selling. To commercially release Whoopty, someone had to clear the sample. And clearing a Bollywood sample from T-Series, one of the largest media companies on the planet, was not cheap.
Did this sample really cost you $80,000 to clear?
It was more at first. And, you know, we negotiated and, you know, shout out to my team.
As an unsigned kid from Staten Island with no deal and no savings, CJ did not have $80,000. Someone else wrote that check, and that someone was his uncle, James Cruz. Now, if that name doesn't ring a bell, it should. James Cruz is not some random family member who believed in his nephew's dream. He was the president of Bad Boy Entertainment, working directly under Sean Diddy Combs during the label's peak. He managed 50 Cent, he managed Busta Rhymes, he was a senior executive at Violator Management, the firm responsible for building 50 Cent's career from the ground up. He was also CJ's manager and founder/CEO of Cruise Control. All that meant was he was very well connected in the music industry. He knew what numbers to call and what doors to knock.
I said, yo, don't worry about it, we got it. I woke up everybody, asked favors, this and that, figured out who the copyright was from, sample comes, blah, 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 blah. Ask all the DSPs, give me 72 hours, do not pull this record, give me 72 hours. Because what happens is, you pull the record, you either lose all the views or you lose the record completely.
That's the man who bankrolled CJ's so-called organic rise with an $80,000 sample clearance, paid out of pocket, before CJ had a single label offer.
And I go to the bank the next morning and sign out that money out of my daughter's college fund, shout out to Isabella, out of my daughter's college fund, and we pay for that sample.
To many, that move did not look like an aspiring rapper hustling his way out of the streets. It looked more like a corporate investment disguised as a come-up story. And people pointed this out with comments like, helps to have someone in the industry get you over barriers, and he's an industry plant. He didn't make it on his own. It gets worse for CJ. That sample clearance didn't just cost $80,000 up front. It permanently affected the economics of how much he could earn from what would be his biggest hit. And because the hook of Whoopty is basically the Santa Maria melody, any credit or recognition the Whoopty gets flows back to the original creators of the sample. But none of that mattered in January 2021. The numbers were too loud to ignore. Warner Chappell Music, through its sister company Warner Records, won a bidding war and entered into a worldwide publishing agreement with CJ. Warner Chappell Music president of A&R US, Ryan Press, said, CJ is a young talent who burst onto the New York rap scene and is already gaining worldwide attention. CJ seemed to be very happy with that deal, saying Ryan Press and the Warner Chappell team are all about building a writer's career, and that's exactly what I'm looking to do. The moment CJ has been waiting for as a songwriter and an artist has finally arrived. The deal was reportedly favorable to CJ on master ownership and recoupment terms. French Montana, who was a Bad Boy affiliate at the time, was lined up for a remix and other future collaborations.
Me and French, like, as soon as we locked in, we connected, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got a few joints that's really gonna take off.
Busta Rhymes, who was managed by James Cruz at the time, was ready for a feature. One of the biggest rappers on the planet was giving their approval, making videos with his music. On paper, CJ had everything. A top 10 hit still climbing the charts, a major label deal, co-signs from A-listers, and an uncle with a Rolodex deeper than most CEOs in the music industry. But there was one massive problem that nobody was talking about. Warner Records hadn't signed an artist, they signed a song. The deal of a lifetime that CJ was banking his entire career on was based on a single data point. One viral moment, one TikTok loop, one Bollywood sample that was cleared with someone else's money. After signing CJ, Warner needed a second hit. The pressure was on CJ to prove that he was more than a 15-second soundbite. He needed to show that there was an actual career to be had after Whoopty's viral success. But what happened next would prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there wasn't. For a while, people were just happy to enjoy Whoopty. It was a good song, and it hit right. Nobody was asking too many questions. But when CJ started selling his come-up story and how he was grinding his way out of Staten Island, people started digging.
It was pretty much just $1 in a dream, you know what I'm saying? Like, even like junior high school, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't have much, you know what I'm saying? Like, I used to just dream about this shit, like, damn, like, I want to have all, you know, I want to have that new Rollie, I want to have that new, you know, that new bust-down chain, you know what I'm saying? Them earrings look nice, like, it was just a dream.
And once they started digging, the whole narrative started to fall apart. And the bone of contention was CJ's uncle, James Cruz. The $80,000 sample clearance could have been just a concerned uncle looking out for his family, believing in CJ and investing in his future. But when CJ suddenly landed a remix with French Montana, and Busta Rhymes featured him on the remix of Czar after Whoopty blew up, the holes in the plot became more glaring. These aren't features that a first-time unsigned rapper earns through hustle and reputation. These felt more like favors, industry credits, and debts being called in. And that's when the accusations came flooding in. CJ wasn't a discovery. He was a product, rolled out by an industry veteran who had the capital to clear samples, the connections to stack features, and the know-how to time the rollout perfectly for the TikTok era. People were leaving comments like, CJ wasn't really about the rap, and they didn't know he was connected to the industry. Now it makes sense. He was the plug. CJ is not a superstar, and he's not even a star. He's not even thought of in this new generation. He's definitely an industry plant. Now that people know just how connected CJ was, his organic rise felt staged. The overnight success looked more like someone knew how to take advantage of years of infrastructure, and the kid from Staten Island making out of the hood felt like a marketing angle written by someone who had ran a similar come-up story before and understood how it all worked. In hip-hop, especially in drill,